All Middle Class Now is a text written by John Gray and David Block, in which is studied the representations of the working class in ELT textbooks in the neoliberal era. First of all, we need to know what class means. According to Lenin, class or classes are basically people who differ from each other by the place they occupy in society. Class can be described according to two aspects: position and geography. The first aspect refers to the social position that a person occupies, for instance, income, status, education, job occupation, etc. The second aspect is related to the place or physical space a person belongs to. Within this, we can state the ethnicity and sex of a person.
What working class means? Working class refers to all those who have to sell their labor power and skills. Basically, it includes everyone who depends on their labor to survive and excludes workers who get wages from personal businesses. In the neoliberal era, working class were a sort of protagonists of hard working. This era is characterized by the movement of privatization and independence of the government, and the demise of working class.
How class is seen in ELT textbook? It is a regime of representation, a way of constructing the world of how is to be a speaker of English in the world, and what they try to do is to focus on the representation of the class in the textbooks, and respond to why we should all take this practice into consideration. 1. Because the symbolic representations in the textbooks drive people towards a discussion of the legitimacy of the status of a particular social group. 2. Because the symbolic representations in the curriculum draw a construction of social relations and their interpretations of reality and value judgments. 3. Because of the curriculum, students are given selective access to ideas and information.
Therefore, John Gray and David Block thought that it would be a good idea to develop a framework in order to explore the issue of working class representation. They chose 8 best-selling textbooks from 1970, when the boom in English teaching had begun, to 2009. Then, they chose 2 textbooks of each decade in order to compare them. The results that they found, as can be seen in the table, there is a progressive decline in representation of working class characters, mentions of working class employment, and topics to working class experience. The first 2 textbooks showed the highest amount of working class representations, such as showing activities and samples of factory and office workers. English in Situations from 1970 was the first textbooks analyzed, showing 41.5% of the total pages of representations of working class. The second one, Kernel Lessons Intermediate, shows the highest amount, which had 57% of the total pages showing working class representations. We can see a complete decrease to the years. For instance, in the textbook Building Strategies from 1984, that only showed 20% of the total with working class appearance, and this decrease kept going through the years. This is extremely connected with the demise of working class and the privatization movement, and finally, the overgeneralization that we all are middle class.
How this framework could be used to understand learning materials? We think that this framework can help the teacher to take into consideration some aspects that he or she may not think as important, such as the social class that students belong to. But we also think that the representations of working class in textbooks nowadays is not that significant as it used to be in the 1970s, although we have to make activities according to our learners' needs. For instance, in some books they found that the example of people belongs to upper class while the students were middle class. If something like this happens, the students might not feel part of the learning process and will feel disengaged.